So Kevin, tell us about the inspiration for the story and how you came up with the idea of capturing it in a very stripped down manner, which obviously added to the mystery behind it.
Well, the genesis of the film originally began with the characters, long before any kind of sense of structure. Kenny and Roz were two characters that had effectively written themselves. They kept me awake at night and just kind of wouldn't go away. And around a similar time frame, I was playing with the idea of making a film that would be kind of a logical progression of the style I like to work in, which is a film in one entire shot. And as that idea started to develop, Norma and I realized that these characters we'd been talking about for the last several months would be a really perfect fit for it. And then from there, the structure of the film influenced the development of the characters, and vice versa. The characters developed where the structure of the film would go.
You know, it's interesting because the shower curtain, which obviously keeps us at a distance from seeing what, you know, what these people are actually going through, behind closed doors, obviously, and it's both a literal and a figurative barrier between them in their own relationship. I'm just curious how you worked with the actors, knowing that they weren't going to be able to look at each other, really, and that they'd have to convey everything that their characters were going through the dialogue and through the camera movement.
Well, ultimately, I don't think I worked in too different a strategy with the actors than I would have normally. Sort of the key thing was that we didn't do that much sort of technical rehearsal. We didn't do that much blocking. We really only rehearsed for probably even less than half a day. But I'd been working with them for the 3 previous days, workshopping and doing improvs and development and sort of coming to a consistent language between them and myself. And I think that was really important because we set up the bedrock of who these characters were, how long they'd been together and under what circumstances, and then from there, I really didn't need to direct the actors to do anything differently within that room because they felt it was their home and that this person with them was their lover of 10 years.
That really comes across very well. How many takes did you guys do? Can I ask that?
Yes, we can. We shot 7 takes over the course of a single day, and it's take 6 that you see on screen.
We're going to open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions for the director or producer? In the back?
What was the casting process like? How did you find them?
Well, we saw quite a few actors. We're from Toronto, Canada, which has a great film and television and also theater scene, and it was really key for me that we'd be looking for actors who have a real familiarity with the stage, because effectively, if you think about a film in one shot, you're more or less directing a piece of theater that's being photographed by a camera. So one of the sort of key considerations for us was to look at people who had a theater background. And Dylan and Tasha came in and just had the most amazing both determination to get across their choices and get across the material, and just clearly a real love of the craft. And they were both tremendously excited to find out that we would be shooting this in this way, because they both do quite a lot of theater and quite a lot of stage work.
I think we have time for a couple more questions. Yeah.
Yes, I can. 3 sort of major reasons why we could do this film were, number one, the National Screen Institute of Canada, which is an incredible organization based in Winnipeg, which is a funding and training organization. So you apply, and it's a jury process where you get selected, and we were fortunate enough to get selected in 2009. And so they give you funding and training, so $10,000 worth of money, and then lots of training, and as well as $30,000 in-kind services. So they were a big part of this project, as well as Canada Council of the Arts, which we applied for and got maximum funding as well in our category, and Panavision, because we wanted to shoot 35mm, which this is. And so we applied to their filmmakers assistance program, and we won. And we were basically allowed to take out the best package, anamorphic lens and all that, for $1,000 for the full week that we needed it for, which would never happen in the real world. So it was about 2 years worth of fundraising, and pitching to various organizations, Panavision, to try and get the money and the resources to make this film. Paid off.
I thought that the camera work was really nice in this, especially considering you guys shot on 35 and it's all one take. And I'm wondering how long did it take to get the blocking of the camera done?
I'll pass it over to them.
Well, that process actually began about 3 years before we shot. My director of photography, Daniel Durant, who's a good friend and clearly a phenomenal artist, he and I had been working together from virtually the second draft of the script that I wrote, because I knew by the point that it got on the page, we knew that we wanted to make this a one-shot film. And so the first contact that he and I had about Hangnail was an email that said, I've got this script that I want you to read, and A, tell me what you think of the script, and B, tell me how in the Christ we're going to shoot this. So that process began actually very, very early between Daniel and myself and our storyboard artist, where we set up tape lines on the floor and started walking through what would the ideal geography of the scene be, and how would we get from place to place, and also who do we want to be on at any given time in the scene. And that process, developed over the course of 3 years with a back and forth between Daniel and myself, and also our consulting editor, Paul Law. Yes?
Going along with that, was that a stage or an actual location?
That was, in fact, it was a stage set. Yes, okay. It was built on stage.
One more question.
I was just wondering, how did you guys get Paul Haggis involved?
That's a normal question.
So the question was, how did we get Paul Haggis involved? And that's a very good question. It was essentially it started at the National Screen Institute of Canada. So during our training program with the phenomenal Joy Lowen, who is here in the audience, they really encourage you to reach out to any admirers that you have, mentors that you have that are Canadian filmmakers. And one of the persons that Kevin and I both really wanted to reach out was Paul Haggis, because we both love him. A lot of his themes we felt were interplayed with our themes here. So it was essentially just phone call after phone call after phone call. Finally, 3-4 degrees of separation, getting the script to him in LA. He read it, he thought it was quite ambitious what we were trying to do, and signed on as the unofficial creative consultant. So we screened cuts, because what Kevin didn't mention was that we actually did do another full day of coverage in case we didn't love the one-shot deal when it was processed. So we sent him various cuts, and he loved the master, like the one-shot version that we had, and become a huge supporter of the film. So we're incredibly grateful and very, very lucky that he loves our work. And he's been involved since the beginning, so we're quite lucky for that.
One more round of applause for Hangnail.